The purpose of this video is to show you how to add resources to your Moodle course. You'll recall from an earlier video that we talked about the differences in these panes. The left pane and the right pane, which contain blocks, and the center pane, which contains the content of our course. And we talked about how this center pane is divided into these sections. And these sections can be numbered as a topic, or they can be dated as a weekly section. We talked about how we can add into this section resources and activities. So the purpose of this video is to work through this resource drop down to show you what each of these is and how you would add it, maybe why you would add it. So let's first talk about getting one of these sections set up. And so you'll see down here in topic number 4, I have a blank section. And let's say that I want to move that up beneath this first section, the Unit 1. And also I want to move it up above Unit 2 here just so we can play with it. So I'm going to come over here. You'll see it's not shown to students. And another indicator of that, aside from that eye, is the fact that this is gray. I have these arrows where I can move it up and down. So I'm going to use the up arrow. And when it refreshes, you'll see it's moved to the top. And it's been renumbered number 3. And now I can begin to work with this. So the first thing that you'll see inside this section is this little edit icon right here. And this is the summary field. This is in every section, whether it's a topic or a weekly section. It's always there, and it's kind of the title of the section. So I'm just going to click this, and I can now edit this. I can make it a long paragraph if I wanted. I typically just make it a heading. And you'll see you have your typical controls up here. So I'm just going to put test section, and I'm going to highlight that, and I'm not sure how I formatted the other one, so I'm just going to guess at it. I think it was 12 point, bold, and underline. Save changes. And looks like I'm a little small. That's probably actually 14. That's okay. So now I have that labeled, and let's talk about adding our resources. And we're just going to work through this list quickly. So book is the first resource, and I'm actually not going to show you this one. I've never used it. That doesn't mean it might not be useful, but it's something you can figure out on your own if you choose that you want to do it. But in a nutshell, what this is going to do is walk you through writing a book. And you start with putting in the title, and then gives you an edit text box like we've just used to create that test section label, and you're going to type your first chapter, and you're going to save that, and you're going to open up the next chapter and keep going. And then it just puts a link here where the students can actually read your book. That's book. Let's move on to insert label. This one you'll use a lot. You'll see in my Unit 1 here, preview lessons, required assignments. These are just labels. So they're more of an organizational tool. So let's insert a label. And I'm just going to say required work. Again, if you like things that look pretty and consistent, you're going to want to remember, well, what size did I make these labels? And let's say I did it 10 point bold. I don't believe I underlined them. And I save and return to course. And it's gray. It's showing up as gray because this section is hidden. So I'll unhide it. Now, of course, once I unhide it, now it's visible. But that'll just help me compare. Yeah, I think I'm still a little small. All right, so you'll see in my layout that I have put my labels all against the left. If I wanted this label to be indented, you see I have this move right button, and that'll move it over. And now it's indented. And now, because it is indented, I can actually move back to the left if I wanted to. This button actually lets me move it anywhere on the page that I want to, up and down, vertically. So when I click that, it disappears, so don't let this confuse you. The thing that I am moving is no longer on the page. And I have all these boxes in between all the other resources and activities that allow me to move it to that spot. So if I want to put it right here under Mastery Assessment, I click that box. And there my label is. So I actually don't want it there. I'm going to move it back. Again, it's disappeared. Don't let that wig you out. And this is where I want it. and I want to move it back to the left edge. Okay, so that is a label. The other thing I should point out about these, and this will be true of both resources and activities, is these this I is here as well as it is for the whole section. So the difference is if I click this I, the whole section is going to be hidden from students. Right now this section is visible to students, and if I click this I, the only thing that's going to be hidden is that required work label. Everything else in the section is visible. So a practical example, this might be up here in my Unit 1. Let's say I don't want to show the mastery assessment yet. I want to build it out, and I want it to be there so that I can just turn it on when I'm ready, but I don't want it to be visible at this point in time in the course. So I could just hit my eye on all three of those items, and they would not be visible to students. I'm going to go ahead and show this. Okay, so we know what a book is, we've done a label. Our next two options are composing a text page and composing a web page. I'm going to show you web page because I'm not sure why you would ever use a text page. A text page is basically a page where all you can do is type text unformatted. Whereas a web page, you have the ability to use all these other formatting tools. So I'm not sure why there may be a good reason for doing a text page over a web page, and I just don't know what it is. So I'm going to give this a label, this name here, and this is the name that's actually going to show up on your main Moodle page. So if you're using some kind of special nomenclature to keep things in order or to keep things identified, you want to make sure you use that here. And since this is a web page, I'm just going to say that this is assignment 1. So perhaps this particular web page is going to be my instructions for this particular learning activity. Again, I basically never put anything in the summaries, but you could. And then here I'm actually composing my web page. And I can do some here. The first step is yada yada yada. But if this feels confining because it is small, notice that I can click this enlarge editor button, and what it will do is pull up a larger editor where I can actually go full page. So I can maximize this, and now I have much more room to work with. The potentially confusing part here is that these two things are both active at the same time. So you notice as I'm putting text in here, it's showing it there. And if you're bouncing around to, let's say, grab an image or grab some text to paste back in here, and you click off of it, and when you come back you start editing in here, you start getting some really weird behavior. See how that's not staying? And that's because this is still open. And this is the same process same editor process as for wikis, and I've had students lose work because they have forgotten this window was there. And the same would be true for you as you're creating your web pages, is that you can lose your work. So just be real mindful of having this editor open, and that before you leave it, you go ahead and shrink it back so that now this editor works and you don't wind up losing anything. I'm not going to walk you through all of these things, but essentially you can do most of the things you can do in Word. You can make things a hyperlink. If I select the text and then I click hyperlink, it's going to allow me to paste in where I want it to go. You can ignore title. Target is whether you want it to open in a new window, something that pops up, or to open in the same window. Don't worry about a frame. But if you want more help in how to use this particular editor, that's something that you'd want me to sit with you to do rather than going over it here. So I'm going to save and return to course. And you'll notice now we have this link, and it has this little icon that shows me it's taking me to another page. Again, keeping consistent with my organizational pattern up here, my activities and resources are indented. So I'm going to indent this. If I later came to realize I wanted to change that page or change the title, I can just come right back here to the edit button or the update button, and it's all back available to me, and I can make this assignment 12. And save and return to course. If I click save and return to course, it goes back to the main page. If I just want to save and display, it's actually going to take me to that web page. And you see I must have set it to open in a pop-up, and my pop-up blocker is blocking that. Let's see if I can unblock it. allow pop-ups. All right, so now when I come back to it, it should open in a new window, and there is my web page. This link here will delete it. That'll actually take the whole thing out, and it will prompt me, are you sure? I can say, oh no, I'm not sure, I don't want to do that. Okay, let's look at the next label, or the next resource. Link to a file or website. So this is where, let's say I want to take someone out to a specific site. For our purposes, I'm just going to say gcsnc.com. So I go to where it is I wanted to take them. And I'm going to copy the URL. Come back here. I'm going to add a link. And let's say that this is taking them to a video. So video on the 3 laws of motion. Again, I'm leaving that blank because I always do. Paste my link. Here, this is where you're getting that behavior where the new window is coming up. If you want to open the same window, you can just do that. Ignore all of these parameters. Save and return to course. And I'll move it over. And you'll notice it has a different icon here that shows that this is taking me to a web site. When I click it, it's in the same page because that's what I asked it to do. And now Moodle's gone. So when you create these links, you have to decide whether you care if it leaves Moodle open or not. If you want Moodle to remain open, you want to leave it as a new window. And frustratingly, when you come back and edit this, one of these links, I believe it sets it back to new window. So if you want to open the same window, you wind up always, whenever you edit, having to reset this. So I have gotten in the habit of just leaving it and letting it open in a new window, just so I don't have to worry about it. So now that we've added a link to a website, let's add a link to a file. So I'm going to use the same resource drop-down option. And so this will be a situation where you have created an activity, instructions and other materials for an activity that you want to actually put into Moodle as a PDF or a PowerPoint or a Word document, and you want the students to access it. So let's say that this is project number 2. I'm going to skip that summary field there. Instead of pasting in a web link here, I'm going to choose or upload a file. And I could choose any of these. What you see here is just my file structure in Moodle. It's just like the file structure on your computer where you have folders and subfolders, only here you're accessing them through a browser. So I have 2 folders here, one called Unit 1 and one called Mod Data, and then I have just this PDF sitting here. If the file I'm looking for is not in here because I just created it, then I need to upload it. And let's say that this is a Unit 1 document. I want to be in Unit 1 when I do the upload. And I can, if I needed to add a subfolder, I could do that. Or I can just go ahead and upload the file. I'm going to browse for the file. And let's say I want to use, since this is here, I've selected it. I'm going to upload this file. And now you can see that I'm in Files, Unit 1, and there is that file. If this is the one I want to use, I click Choose, and it puts the file path right there. You don't need to edit that or worry about what it says. So with files, you do need to think a little bit about these Windows options right here, and really it's just these top 2. If I choose to do it in a new window, notice that I cannot force the download. I cannot check that box. And so what Moodle will do, and I'll actually show you this, Moodle is going to put it inside of its own file viewer, which to me is annoying. So let's go back and find that. I'm going to tab this over. Oops. So when I click on it, notice that my icon is different. Here it recognized that it was a link to a website and put that icon. Here it recognizes that it's a link to a file and then specific to a PDF file, so it puts the little PDF icon there. I should add that I typically always upload my files as PDFs unless there's a really strong reason to use its native file format. The reason for doing that is because a PDF can be opened by pretty much any device without any special software installed, with the exception of PDF Reader, which most devices are going to have. Whereas if I upload a Word document, they may not have Word installed, or it might be the wrong version of Word. And if I upload a Word document or say a PowerPoint, aside from the software issues, my file can be edited or changed, and I might not want that. So I typically do everything PDF unless, let's say, it's a template in Word that I want the students to use and modify and make it their own. In that case, there's a good reason to put it up there in Word. Otherwise, I always do it in PDF. Okay, so I'm going to open up this file, and you'll notice these were just the defaults. So I've opened it in Moodle, and it's in this little frame, this little Moodle file viewer, which gives me a slide here, and it gives me a slide here, and I find that just to be annoying. You may like it. So if you don't like it, what you want to do, I'm going to go back here, and we're going to edit the options around window, and I'm going to go to same window, and you'll see that now I can edit this force download button. What that does is it just says, okay, just have them open the document as it normally would. Don't try to put it in this neat Moodle viewer. So now I can save and return. And when I go down now and I click it, it should just, right, it's gonna do whatever it would normally do in your browser. There we go. So this actually opened it in Adobe Acrobat. I'm no longer in a browser. That makes it much more useful to me. Okay. Now we're down to display a directory. What this will do is actually allow you to show any of your files that you have stored in Moodle. So I could say Unit 1 files. What directory do I want to display? I can just pull this down, and it's showing me all the folders that I have in Moodle. I only had one. Unit 1 was the folder. You may recall having seen a mod data folder. That was just something that Moodle creates having to do with my modules that isn't something I maintain, so you can ignore that one. If I had Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, they'd all be here. And if I had Unit 1 in a subfolder, that would be there as well. So let's say I want this just to show whatever's in Unit 1. And I'm going to save and return to course. Now I have yet another icon, which you probably recognize. This is just a folder, just like you'd have on your computer. And when I click it, it's going to open everything in that folder. And notice it's not giving students a way to navigate beyond this folder, to navigate up. So if this was a subfolder of a subfolder of a subfolder, and I didn't want them to have access to the other folders above that, then this is safe. They can't get to it. They could, if there were a subfolder in here, they could do that. So let's actually demonstrate that. And while I'm getting back there, the advantage of this is that now I can just upload things into this folder, and they'll always be that this link I don't have to update, because it's just going to show students everything that's in that folder. So as I add Unit 1 resources, for example, to Moodle, when students click here, whatever's newly added will show up there as well. So if I want to manipulate my file structure, I can come right here under Administration, and let's say under Unit 1, I wanted to create another folder. I'm going to make a folder. We're going to call this Extensions. And I'm going to navigate up and create a Unit 2 folder. Okay, so now, and actually let's add a file in there. I'm going to upload something else. Let's just do that one, upload. Okay, so now I added that Unit 1 files directory link, and over the next couple of days I've been working creating other materials that I added just in the process I just showed you into that folder. And now we can see when we go back that students will be able to see those new resources that I've added, the new folders and the new files, and I haven't had to add any additional links directly in my Moodle course. So when I come here now, you can see the file that was there before, but now this new subfolder is there that I created. And in that subfolder is that additional document I created. That's the time saver. Now the important thing to add there is that if students don't know what these files are, burying them in a folder probably is not a good idea. I typically would put everything that I'm doing right out here, and I would use a folder like this when I was offering a variety of supplementary materials. Like, let's say that the assignment was to choose an article and do this project on it. I would have the assignment sheet, the sheet that had the instructions and how to do everything in the rubric, directly here, and then I would refer them to go to Unit 1 files and choose an article. That way I could just drop articles in and not worry too much about having to explain what each one is. But where it's an assignment that's in a specific sequence or has to be done, I never buried it in a folder because students just don't dig through those things. Oh, the other thing I want to demonstrate here is when I'm coming into the Unit 1 files, you will notice that I can't get to that Unit 2 folder that I created. There's no way for me to navigate to that, and that's a good thing, because that way wherever you link your students to in terms of directory, they're stuck there. They can go down, but they can't go up or over. Okay. The last one is this IMS content package, and you can ignore it. That's just where you've got some prepaid Moodle course package from a vendor that you want to upload and install, and we don't do that. So there you have it. The ones that you're going to use the most often are going to be this one, the link, and the label. I didn't do a lot of these web pages. You may find that more helpful. I tended to put all of my things directly into a document and create a PDF of it. And the reason for that is that I wasn't locked into Moodle. If something better comes along, or you decide to shift to Edmodo, or you need to email something to a parent or to a student or to a colleague, you've got it in a file format where it's not held hostage by Moodle. So I basically never used the web pages. Okay, that concludes this video, and in the next one we will look at these activities.